Out front tonight, Jay Goldberg, longtime attorney, personal friend of the president who represented Trump in both of his divorce cases. And Jay, good to see you again.
Good to see you.
So you know, the president obviously has said there was a spy there. The spy was there to help Hillary Clinton, right? He has put this conspiracy theory out there. Rudy Giuliani says, I don't know. I don't have any evidence of it. Who knows? And obviously that's consistent with what we're hearing today out of the meetings. Does the president need to stop making baseless claims like this or not?
No, I think where there's an implanted spy in his campaign, he doesn't have to take the word of the FBI or the Democratic Party operatives that nothing was garnered from the implanted spy. All that was garnered from this implanted spy is ABC. He has a right to look into the question of E, F, G, H, and I was garnered. Nothing was done by him of a similar nature with respect to Hillary's campaign.
Right. What we understand, though, is this person wasn't implanted in the campaign.
Yes.
FBI found out, hey, there's a bunch of guys who have ties to Russia and Russian operatives. That's concerning to us. Let's ask an informant to check it out. That would be completely consistent with a counterintelligence investigation.
It would be. People know who the counterintelligence agent is.
Yes, we do.
There's no reason why the Inspector General can't put the gentleman under oath to find out how he got there.
Well, his name was leaked by somebody, right? I mean, it's not, we know, but we shouldn't know.
But why was he there? And why did he have to assume an informative role when all he sought was information of a nature that the Trump side was entitled to know?
So you're saying it's okay that the president of the United States, without knowing that anything, as Giuliani has said, without any evidence at all, is coming out and saying that the FBI and the DOJ, the highest law enforcement in this country, are corrupt?
Well, I think the case is such, and it's so cloudy, that warrants an examination from top to bottom by an impartial source, and that would be the Inspector General. I'm not willing to take the word of the FBI.
Paul Ryan says they're giving the information. Mitch McConnell says nothing's come out of this.
Well, no, Mitch McConnell said he can't tell you what came out because it's classified.
He said nothing surprising.
Nothing surprising. But President Trump has been through this before, and he has a right to have this analyzed by an impartial person, namely the Inspector General, against whom no claim is made of partiality.
So I want to ask you about our other breaking news this hour. The president came close to sitting down at Camp David for 5 hours on January 27th with Bob Mueller's team.
Yes.
Close, but it didn't happen. And I want to ask you this in the context of Rudy Giuliani. Today he said Trump should not talk to Mueller. He told the Huffington Post, quote, I would not like to talk to Mueller at all. Yesterday he told the Washington Post, quote, I guess I'd rather do the interview.
No.
Does Giuliani have a strategy?
No. In fact, I wrote a book on this. It's coming out shortly. There's a definite risk of perjury, false swearing, trap. It's not just perjury, it's false swearing, which is much broader than perjury. And the president is a sitting duck. He's not sought to be examined for them to get information. He's sought to be examined for them to get him. And everybody knows it. And as you sit here, Erin, you don't know the members of his staff. You don't know the person in his staff who's described as a pit bull. You don't know the people who are framing the questions designed to put him in a spot where he could be contradicted, albeit by somebody who's trying to win the favor of the government and would
So you wouldn't do it. But why is Giuliani saying one day he should, one day he shouldn't? I mean, does he have a strategy? Is he doing a good job?
No, he is doing a good job to the extent that one thing is clear. He has an experienced record of being a prosecutor behind him, and he knows what a perjury trap is. He's probably had members of staff engage in perjury traps, and he knows how risky it would be for the president to subject himself to examination. It is absolutely incredible for anybody to come out with the idea that he should cooperate. Now, there was some mention that a good friend of mine, Ty Cobb, said that he ought to testify.
Yes.
People have said if he had nothing to hide, he should testify. That's not true. he could be telling the truth, and I'm sure he will be. But they'll find somebody to contradict him who will try to avoid the risk of going to jail. And how they do that is they win the favor of the prosecutor. And they don't hesitate to change their testimony to win the prosecutor's favor.
I want to hit pause here because speaking of that, I want to ask you about Michael Cohen. We're going to do that in just a moment. Jay Goldberg's going to weigh in on the latest bombshell to drop in the Michael Cohen case. We have that right after this. Will Cohen's former business partner's plea deal force Cohen to turn on Trump's longtime attorney, Jay Goldberg, back with me? Jay, I want to ask you about Michael Cohen, but first, I know you do speak with the president regularly. You see him, you spend time with him.
I wouldn't say I speak with him regularly. I think that's an overstatement.
Yeah.
I think there have been calls from time to time when he sees fit, but I don't speak to him regularly.
So when's the last time you spoke to him? I mean, I know you've spoken to him, obviously, in light of all of this stuff going on.
I happen to know it since I got a letter. It was April 30th.
Yeah. And what are you advising him right now?
Well, I'm not going to say what he said. I just say that you're to stay away from Michael Cohen. The Southern District has a technique of wiring people up for sound and gets them to engage a person in conversation. In addition, the staff of Mueller contains a person, Andrew Weissman, who is described as a pit bull and is very favorably oriented towards Hillary Cohen. And these are people who seek to delegitimize you, and it would be nothing better from them to get you in a perjury trap.
So Michael Cohen, obviously, had this former business partner, Evgeny Friedman, who was facing a sentence of up to 100 years in jail if convicted.
Right.
He is now cooperating, and they're going to, not go ahead with that.
They'll squeeze him, it's called.
So does this mean Cohen's toast?
Cohen will be toast.
Okay. So what does he do then? He turns on the president?
Toast, this piece of toast turns to his parents and turns to his wife and thinks about his children and realizes that if he goes to jail, the wife goes to jail. She's got to travel 4 hours with the children, subject herself to a search, see the husband for an hour every month, and that causes a breakdown in the toughest of people. And if the judge sentences him, well, to 12 years, he'll cooperate as quickly as the door shuts to the cell.
So you're worried about that. You also think George Papadopoulos, who is cooperating, and Mueller's going to go ahead and sentence, but you're worried about him too, with the president?
I think I'm worried about him, yes. He's a young guy. He fits the profile of not feeling that he belongs in jail. There are certain people who are of the view that they do not belong in jail. And don't ask me the race or color, but there are people who don't see themselves in jail, even if they're guilty of wrongdoing.
But Papadopoulos, you think, could turn on the president. Does he know anything about him?
I know nothing about him. He's a young guy. I just worry about him. I never mentioned him to the president. This is just my personal view. And not much has been heard of from General Flynn, and I worry about him too. None of these things have been put before the president. It's my own personal view. All
right. Well, I thank you very much for it. And, of course, perhaps he saw this and now knows what you think about that. Jay Goldberg, good to have you.
It's good to see you.
And next, breaking news, desperate situation in Hawaii.